Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm Dylan Grausz. As always, I have Chris Jackson alongside me today. And on today's episode, we have a bit of a simple show. We're going to talk about some stats that really jump out at us between the first couple of games of the high school season. And then we're going to talk about a little bit of something interesting. We have a changing of the guard in NorCal sports. Serra beat De La Salle in football on national TV. I know, crazy stuff. We will get into that. But now I want to start with some stats. Now, some teams have played 3 games, a lot of teams have played 2. But regardless, there's some stats I want to talk about. The first uh, athlete that really jumps out at me is the Folsom quarterback, Austin Mack. In 3 games played, this is not a joke. This kid has no interceptions, 10 touchdowns, 833 yards passing. This kid has been absolutely tearing it up in the first 3 games, but this team's only 2-1. What do you see from Mac as the season or as the season progresses?
I mean, he's got everything in him. That's why he's got 10 offers. He's got Stanford, he's got Arizona, he's got Cal, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, you name it. He's got those offers pretty much. 3-star, tall, big quarterback. He's 6'5, 200. Just the size alone, then you got the arm talent like him. And their one loss also was the Serra. And when they played Serra, their top tight end, that 4-star Walker Lyons, broke his leg in that season opener. So they're without Walker Lyons until the playoffs at the earliest with the broken leg. He's trying to come back. If he does, that's miraculous stuff. But Austin Mack's got that talent. He's still a junior. He had offers as a JV starter last year too. Of course, the starter ahead of him was Tyler Tremaine. He broke some records too. He's playing now at Redlands. He's playing college football. But Austin Mack's one of those guys. Just arm talent alone, mechanically, he's got all that stuff, and there's a reason why he's got these 10 offers in Stanford, Cal,
Yeah, and
Arizona.
these guys haven't even played a league game yet, so I think that when he gets to that point in the season, it's going to be more of a test. But right now, he's looking really good, and he's definitely proven why he deserved 10 offers. Another player on the list that that actually isn't really a surprise, but it's a good thing to see. We got Miramonte's own Luke Duncan, who's had 9 touchdown passes to 1 interception in 2 games. Come on, that is insane. Like the yards per game is good, but it's obviously not like super eye popping. But you look at the touchdown interception ratio in 2 games, that you can see why he's a UCLA commit. This kid has been turning around the program. He throws deep balls. He's fast. He knows what he's doing out there. He's smart. Can you tell me about that team as the season goes? If Luke is their quarterback, how they look in the outlook of their team as it progresses down the line.
You're only going to see him get better when the lights get brighter and
Yeah.
games get closer, right? They haven't had games where it's just awfully close early on. He's still got 9 touchdowns, right? He'll get more yards, he'll get all that, but he's 6'5". He's got that really strong arm. Just like I said with Mac, there's a reason why UCLA offered Luke Duncan, and there's a reason why he committed there. He's going to go play for Chip Kelly. He's got a fantastic arm and he's big too. It's hard to beat that, especially at this level of high school football. I think he's one of those guys that by the end again, he's going to be one of those stats leaders. And there's some other guys out there too, right? Not too far from him. Monta Vista, Mateo Congdon just had a huge day for Monta Vista after their season opening loss, broken a lot of new starters against Antioch. Week 2, he threw for 4 touchdowns. I think he's a top 3 passer in the NCS, 507 yards, 7 touchdowns, 4
He's
touchdowns last weekend. Monta Vista having another great quarterback isn't really, I guess, a surprise to anybody
yeah.
that's followed Northern California football for the last 20 years. And Mateo's one of those guys that I think is going to go play at the next level too.
I think that with those schools, especially too, you look at these quarterbacks, right? If you have the quarterback as the foundation of a team, the record and the wins are going to start coming up. It's just a matter of how can these players learn to play together. It's early in the season, right? You see all these teams make a run as the season gets, progressively later and later. But you look at all these quarterbacks and just the quarterback play this year has just been incredible so far. I know it's early on, but you just see some quarterbacks. Like there's a lot of quarterbacks, especially in NCS. We'll get to the Central Coast section in a bit, but in NCS, you see some quarterbacks really separating from the pack. You see Mateo Congdon, you see Liam Keeney, who's also DB. You see, Duncan, Austin Mack. But then even Drew Henderson and Berkeley looked like he's been playing pretty well in 2 games. So you get a lot of quarterbacks who are just, really starting to separate themselves a little bit.
Yeah, you're seeing that Liam Keeney, I think, is one of the, I guess, most grown quarterbacks you could say from last year to this year. He showed a lot last year. He just wasn't fully developed as
Yeah.
starting quarterback. And last year, don't forget, it was a 3-month off season. He got 9 months to work with these guys. He's looking good. And he's got 724 yards, 8 touchdowns. He carved up Los Lomas. He carved up Redwood as well. This kid's 2-0. He's thrown aside also Vajrawala. I know you just did a story on him, a Cal commit who's an NCS leader too. He's an NCS leader in receiving. He's supposed to play defensive back at the next level, but he's got 327 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns. Been cooking some dudes. That you've got Dylan Gagnon also there at Rancho Cotati. You got Ananias Walker as a D1 prospect. Rancho Cotati's got some firepower this year out in Sonoma County. They're a team that's up with Campolundo, Foothill, and San Ramon Valley, that NCS D2, where it's going to be a fun race to see how that works, especially between those 4 teams.
Speaking of Campo, there's a player that I really like on that team, and Robbie Mascaroni. That kid is a really good player. Mascaroni is fast. He's lanky. He's got the hands. That's a kid who goes to a small school but is making a big name because he's a top 10 receiver in the section right now, which for Campo is really huge, and you don't see that a lot with that school. It's good to see that, and you just see a lot of these players. Like another one I love is Rico Flores. He's a great player right now. He's having a great season to start. Him and his quarterback are just, they're the duo right now. They're the duo, and I like to see that. I really think that a school like Folsom, it's cool that they have guys on the top of the list right now.
And Folsom's another school. We'll get into that NorCal kind of changing of the landscape regard a little bit later. But Rico Flores going to Notre Dame, you see his footwork, his route running, everything else. He can take over games. He's got, sure, he's a 4-star and an All-American, right? Like I've said with everybody else, that matters. It does. He's that good. They've got that talent. He's got a great quarterback thrown to him. I know Rico Flores has worked with Lon Adams for all these years, and he's one of those footwork training gurus up there in the Sacramento region. He's trained some of the best, and it's no surprise to see what Rico's doing. But all these guys, so I'm glad you mentioned Robbie out there at Campolundo. He's a great 3-star receiver. He's big, he's tall, he's athletic, he makes those tough catches. Over 1,300 yards last year, 1 NCS. Going to be another
college. He'll get some offers for sure.
He's already got, I think, 13 offers. I want to say at this point, he's got Ivy Leagues, high academics too. He's not only gonna play football at a high level, but he's also gonna get a high level education.
Yeah, he's gonna be set. That's the thing about Campo is if you're a good athlete, you will also get offers from high level education schools too, because Campo is a great high school in terms of the academics as well as the sports. So it's a 2-for-1 there. But let's look at some running backs as well. I know you said a few names, but Charles Brown at Antioch. Do we have a Najee part 2 on that team or no? Because he's been absolutely, the last couple games, I swear to God, Najee's back on that team. He's just been absolutely tearing through guys. He's a focal point on that team, and it's no question that he's just absolutely the focal point of that offense, if you will, right now.
He's doing a great job. You got 2 backs who in their first game alone ran for over 100 yards. They ran for 480 yards in their season opener against Monte Vista. Charles Brown went at Pitt last year. Now he goes to Antioch for his senior year. He's definitely not as big as Najee Harris, but he's shifty. He's quick. He can do a lot of things. He's somebody that's going to go play at the next level. In that league, too, you've got Devon Rivers at Heritage. I'm going to see him tonight. Put one of those vests on him to track his speed and all that stuff, too, at their practice. But I know Greg was at their game against Granada. He's had 200-plus yards each of their first 2 games. He's a Fresno State commit. For those that maybe remember, his older brother, Ronnie, from Freedom High School, just finished up at Fresno State. He's in the NFL. You've also got his father, Ron's in the Fresno State Hall of Fame, played in the NFL for a while.
Rivers?
And then he's also, Ron Rivers is also a softball coach at Heritage. He was our softball coach of the year. He's a great football assistant. Anyway, though, back to Devon, because I want to make this about him. He's got 450 yards, 7 touchdowns, a Fresno State commit. He just broke all the school's rushing records this season too.
That's crazy. 2 games in, he's already got that record. He's got the record set, and that's the crazy thing, man. Is these kids, especially in that part of the Bay, you got some players who you can look at and think this guy, if he stays healthy and plays well, he's gonna go far in this sport. And I think that Brown and Rivers especially are two guys that you can tell that they're going to be forces on the field for a while, especially in college. I think they have the chance to be, really good players in college, and I think there's no doubt in my mind that they're not going to make an impact on their team. They're going to make huge impacts on their teams.
Oh, easy, especially with their attitudes, their work ethics. Everybody just kind of gravitates towards them. They're coachable. They're going to translate well. And some other running backs out there too. Livermore's got a sleeper. Elijah Hodgers. I
Yeah.
think we said summer, spring football time, whenever it was, he'd be vying for first team all league. He's got 392 yards right now through 2 games. Livermore's playing really well at a high level under John Wade. You've got him. You've got that quarterback Tyler Trudeau there in the backfield with them. You've got Alex Alvarez at Montgomery. Their game got canceled this week against St. Bernard's, but he's a kid that stepped up. Montgomery's one of those sleeper teams like a Livermore, and then so is Petaluma. Silas Paulo George's 315 yards, 3 touchdowns. I know he was just featured. He's 6'1", 195. He's got a lot of talent. I believe, was that you that spoke to him and interviewed him, I think, a couple of weeks ago? I think somebody interviewed Silas. I'm trying to remember
I
who
don't think it was me, but no, I've heard his name bounced around a few times. And he's definitely a name who's on the rise more. He was talked about a bit in the offseason, but now that he's been playing better, there's some heads that are turning his direction a bit, which is good to see. It's always good to see guys, have their name brought up more because they're playing great football, and that's great. I love seeing that. And on defense, you got on the defensive side of things, you got, in terms of sacks, right? You have Cade Millard in Foothill. He's got 4.5 sacks in 2 games. That's insane. I mean, that's some pressure to the quarterback right there. He's got 4 hurries. He's got 2.2 sacks a game. I mean, this guy's just a machine. He's not someone you can stop easily. What is your assessment of him, and how do you think he's going to fare down the line as
he's a D1 player. His older brother is the head coach at Monte Vista. His dad played in the NFL. Actually, his dad was a defensive player in the year in the NFL, I think in '89 with the Vikings. But Cade looks like that next guy to play high level football. He's way bigger than he was last year, too. Last year, he was tall, but not quite as beefy, muscular. Now this year, he just looks like an edge rusher, outside linebacker. He's going to start getting those offers coming in really, really soon. Once you get that midseason film going up there and everybody sees the size, I mean, once one school offers, a lot of schools are going to offer him.
I think size, I definitely think size is huge too. I think a lot of coaches, especially now, if they see a guy with size, that's half of it. And then if he has the skill set, he'll get offers. I think that's the biggest thing about high school, because you don't really see the size like you normally would like in college, right? So if you see a guy with that size, you're going to get him some looks, especially if he starts playing well. He's going to be getting a lot of looks at. But, I like Millard a lot. I like Deshaun Pratt too. He's been pretty good in 1 game. He has 3 sacks in 1 game. I mean, that's insane. You can't really – I know it's 1 game, but still, that's insane after the first week of the season. Interceptions, you got some great interception players too. You got Samuel Yosa from De La Salle, even though he took the loss. He had 2 interceptions in the first game of the season. He's a good player. He's going to be a force on defense. What do you make of that De La Salle defense, even though they lost their first game of the year?
Yeah, they've got enough talent there. I think De La Salle is still going to get through the NCS. I don't see really somebody competing with them. I think Pittsburgh will be the top competitor for De La Salle this year. De La Salle just though up front. I know Serra, you'll watch it. Serra was the better team up front. Of course, Serra's got some great pieces up front too. We'll get into that soon here too. De La Salle is going to be okay on defense. They've got guys. Got your Cunningham, Journey McCoy is a Nevada commit. There are talents all over there. De La Salle is going to figure it out. They're going to be okay.
They will. They look mortal though this weekend. I don't know how I feel about that. I always think that De La Salle is a team that you never think of to be beatable, but they lost their first game of the year, after having a lead and giving up 17 straight, right? It's like, it's just I know they're going to be good, but I don't know. I mean, after that game on Saturday, do you think that maybe they're going to be the kind of team that might struggle to win NCS in their section?
I still think NCS is all there. It's getting in NorCals and stuff like that is where it's going to change if you have to play a Serra or Folsom. We'll see. I know De La Salle actually does play Folsom here pretty soon. They got St. Francis here this week, some big games. Let me read for you some crazy stats here, though. De La Salle hadn't lost a NorCal game in 30 years before the start of last season. They won 318 games against Northern California teams without a loss. They won 316 of those games, tied twice. Since then, since that loss to St. Francis last year, still 8-3 against NorCal teams since then. I mean, that's not a bad record, right? That's not the De La
Not
Salle.
bad. It's like saying that Aaron Rodgers took a step back. Like, he's still going to be good, but it's not what you expect him to be. 11-0 against teams at this point, but they're not. I mean, 8-3 for any team's great. Don't get me wrong, but with De La Salle, like, you think maybe are they not as big of a powerhouse as they were? But obviously they're still a good team. But you obviously have that thought in your head, probably, like, they lost the first game to Serra. Are they going to be a powerhouse the entire season? Are they going to figure it out? Are they going to struggle? We don't know. But I do know this about them, that they have the coaching staff that can get their team back to where they need to be in a very quick amount of time, which I think is going to be very key in their situation going forward in terms of the NCS and all that stuff. But
I think the biggest thing though, too, and not to interrupt you, but their senior leadership with the Cooper Flanagan, you got Derek Thompson, Cooper Powers. They've got senior leadership. Just the hard part is, I don't know if De La Salle's taking a step back as much as other teams are just taking steps forward. Right? It's even when the Warriors kind of weren't that dominant team with or without Kevin Durant for a little bit, right? Maybe they took a step back that last year, but other teams were also rising. It's just one of those things. Sarah's got an all-time great program, an all-time great coach. Who I think Patrick Walsh is the best coach in California.
Yeah.
And he's adapted unlike any other. Their first week, they were running Clayton Valley style offense to beat Folsom. Then he kind of spreads it out more and beats De La Salle, right? How does a coach adapt like this 2 weeks in a row against great teams and wins? Sarah's got all the talent too. They got the talent up front to match up with the De La Salle. They got a San Diego State commit. Last year they had some D1 guys too. They got a big time tight end like De La Salle does. They've got. I still don't think Sarah's going anywhere. Their 2024 class and beyond's great too. Their quarterback's got 9 offers. A 6'3", 6'4" kid. He just got offered by Michigan State, Milwaukee Smith. Yep. You got Joseph Bay's a hard-hitting safety. He's got some offers. Danny Niu's got offers. Jabari Mann was the WCAL sophomore of the year. He's got some offers. Colin Taitua is a great player. Marley Alapati, who had that kind of last-minute interception at De La Salle, played at De La last year. His family moved to Daly City. Makes more sense to go to Serra, right? He gets an interception. He's another 2024 kid. So Serra's another team. They're not going anywhere. Sarah's only going to be a team I think is going to start being on the top of Northern California here in Patrick Walsh.
Yep. Well, before we talk about the last part of our show, let's do some score predictions, shall we? Let's look at who's playing this weekend. Let's look at who we got playing in our Bay Area. I'll put the San Francisco metro area on there for purposes of this, and we'll do some scores. We got 6 games in the San Francisco metro part of town, where we got Monte Vista playing Alisal. We got Hollister Valley Christian. We got Independence and Freedom. Which game on there stands out to the most, and which game do you think is going to be the most highly competitive game?
Yeah, it's an interesting Thursday slate of games. I think that Willow Glen Pioneer game is pretty good tomorrow. Hollister Valley Christian's a good one. Valley Christian struggled out of the gates. They've played some really high-level teams too, so it's hard to kind of gauge where they're at. Wilcox early on, it's hard to gauge. You have a guy like Jerion Dickey moves out, a guy that's such a focal point. He's at Menlo Atherton now, right? Nobody's shocked that he's doing an MA, but that's tough to replicate early, especially when you got a young quarterback. We'll see. Maybe Hollister's that game. They get that first win. That's a tough one, though, too. I think Valley Christian does get that first win on Thursday night. I do think it's the time they finally get that first one, kind of get that monkey off their back and start getting settled in. Young quarterback really starts getting settled, and Jonathan Kraft's a good young guy. I like him a lot. It's just like we said, replacing Jerion Dickey. I don't care if you're a private school or public school, especially when a move is kind of that. That's a hard thing to replace and replicate. And I don't think there is a way to replace a guy like that.
There you go. Well, I'm going to pick 3 games to choose from at random. I'm scrolling down. I'm stopping and picking a game, and we're going to predict the score. So the first game I landed on was St. Francis and De La Salle. Kind of random, kind of not at the same time, but I want to pick that game because St. Francis is a great team as well. We know what happened in baseball this past season with De La Salle. Now De La Salle or St. Francis has a chance to get the revenge that they wanted on De La Salle. That game is going to be close. I don't think St. Francis is gonna get the dub because I think De La Salle is coming out angry. I think it's gonna be a 31-20 game. But what do you think the score is gonna be, or how do you think that game's gonna play out?
It's a revenge tour for De La Salle because
It
last year
is.
St. Francis was that first NorCal team to beat De La in 30 years. De La after a loss has got to be a scary team. I'm not sure I want to be that team that plays De La Salle this week. I think De La Salle gets it done. I have no concerns about De La Salle whatsoever this week or a lot of these weeks going forward. I've
Yeah.
I've got De La Salle winning pretty big. I like St. Francis a lot, but it's just De La Salle's. I think it's kind of that revenge tour for him right now.
No, it is. It is. Another game I just landed on. The next game we got Monta Vista, James Logan. Now, Monta Vista, as we know, they're a pretty good school, but they obviously are 1-1. So is James Logan, but Monta Vista's at home. So that will be I think, a key factor in the game. I think home teams usually are more likely to come out on top. James Logan's a good team, but I got Monta Vista in this one. I got it a close game. It's gonna be 24-21.
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm looking forward to. James Logan had a big win last week against
That's
Lost.
true. They have the momentum on
They've
their
got
side.
some momentum. I like where Montevis is trending though. Winning in Alamo is never an easy thing. If this was at James Logan, maybe I'd pick a different way with this one because winning in Union City's not easy. Winning in Alamo is not easy. I think Montevis is starting to get that chemistry though. Mateo Collington, Jacob Shahada. I think that running game's going to step up big. I think Montevis. I'm with you. They win a one-score game. I'm seeing 28-24 in the future for this game.
Oh yeah. Now the last game I want to predict is the game versus two 2-0 teams, both ranked at 1-6 respectively. We got Pittsburgh and Cal. Pittsburgh, obviously, we know how good of a team they are. They haven't lost yet, but they're playing on the road to Cal. Cal is also 2-0. If there's going to be an upset in any game, I think it's this one. I think Cal's going to get the dub. It's going to be close. It's not going to be it's look, if there's going to be an upset in any week, because both of these teams are 2-0, they're both good teams. They're both, it's a home game for Cal. And like I said, I usually tend to favor home teams unless there's a serious drastic change, discrepancy in talent or anything like that. But I'm going Cal in this game. It's going to be, I'm thinking 34-31. Both of these teams are good offensively, but I think it's going to be a Cal game. It's going to be an upset. Pittsburgh's a great team, and they're going to get a bounce back, but this game's going to Cal. It's going to be a Cal home game. And I usually, like I said, home teams, especially with this game, could go either way.
Wow, I'm shocked you picked Cal in this one. I thought you for sure. I'm rolling all the way with Pittsburgh.
I love upsets, though. That's the
don't
thing. I'm a big upset guy. I'll always pick an upset every now and then. You will
I,
catch me
I
picking
love
upset.
Cal. I love what their program's got going with Danny Calcagno. I like their running backs a lot. I like this team they've got. Pittsburgh's so talented. They've got 3 and 4 stars across the board. You've got a 4 or 5 star quarterback too. I think Pitt. I don't see Pitt losing until they face De La Salle in the playoffs.
Well, there you go. Those are our game predictions for NCS for the week. Let's talk about an interesting topic you brought up earlier in the show that we were about to talk about because this is a very important thing. De La Salle obviously got their first loss of the season on Saturday. They lost to Serra. Serra is a school that obviously we know Tom Brady was there, and that's how they got their big name. But the last few seasons, I mean, they're on the come up now, but I'd say historically in the last decade or so, has their name really come up in the landscape of sports and football? I mean, how does the landscape change up now that Serra is now officially considered a team that is worth watching and talking about?
Serra is the class of NorCal. Last year they were the team that got the open division bid from NorCal to that state championship game. You go from that to beating Folsom and De La Salle back-to-back weeks to start your season. Both road games, by the way. It's one of them in a comeback fashion on national TV at De La Salle. So when you're down 14, then you score 17 straight, winning on a field goal. Sarah's the class on NorCal now. Until
Yeah, that's crazy. That was a flip.
De La Salle was the class until somebody proved otherwise. Now it's 2 straight years. Sarah's become that class on
Yep.
NorCal. So until someone proves otherwise, it's
Let
Sarah's.
me ask you this though: is Serra the next De La Salle? Are they going to replace when I say this, are we going to see like that team officially replace De La Salle as a team that year after year always wins, always is a team that we say, okay, these guys are going to be pretty much undefeated almost every year, or at least have a chance to? Are we looking at Serra as that team now, or are we still thinking that De La Salle is going to come back and take over the reign again.
It's hard to see somebody replicating what De La Salle did. You just see a lot of programs are getting better. Like a Modern Day is not going to win every year in SoCal because you got Bosco, you got Centennial, you've got those teams. NorCal, it's the same way. You've got a lot of great coaches in this area. De La Salle is going to have its years. Pittsburgh's going to have its years with the talent coming up through that city and that area in East County. Bellarmine's got a great coaching staff. I think some of the young talent they're bringing in is going to win them some big ball games. It's just hard to see somebody doing 3 decades worth of dominance like De La Salle did. It's harder, especially nowadays, just with the way there's so much more talent. And
not even that. You get players transferring like it's free agency. Like I know in college it's more of a prominent thing, but in high school too, I feel like you get guys leaving schools. Like Jurion's a great example. He left to go to play for a different school. Like you see that happen in high school now. So yep. I think that with the instability, I guess is the word, like the fact that you don't really know who's going to be on which team each year, who's going to transfer or whatever. The fact that Serra, the last couple seasons, the fact that it's becoming more of a problem now, but they're sailing now is proof that the culture and the environment is key because they're able to keep players, able to get players in, they're able to develop their talent. And I think that having that for a program, especially in this day and age, is huge. And I do agree with you. I do think that it's hard to replicate what De La Salle's done. But I think when De La Salle was successful, it was during a period where players would play for high school and that was it. But now you get players, like I said, you might see them play in Serra for one season and then transfer to a different school the next season. So I think that having them be good now, especially nowadays, it's telling about that culture and that team and that coaching staff and all that.
Yeah, there's so many great cultures and coaching staffs, and Sarah's that example of how they've built that thing up to where it's harder for a De La Salle to win year in and year out. Folsom's another great example of big time public school there in the Sacramento area. One of their assistants is strictly a recruiting coordinator too. That helps out a lot when you've got an assistant that dedicates himself to that. That's almost like Texas-esque there in a little bit with the way
you don't have that in high school really either anymore. That's not really a high school thing. That's the thing, right? If you're able to recruit in high school, which a lot of schools can't, but some schools are able to, like the private schools, then that's the reason why I think, being a guy who came from a public school, like this isn't even like, that is why it's sometimes hard to compare public schools to private schools in sports because public schools can't recruit like that. But a public school is able to pretty much assemble a college team and then go out there every week and just basically shellac a team because they got 6'5" receivers and 300-pound linemen and guys who they got who they knew were going to be good, and then they win games. So
yeah, that's tough, especially as a public school where I know it's kind of easier to move nowadays and all that stuff, but it's just tough for the resources that some private schools. District rules come into play for stuff. That there's just so many different factors that come into play with this stuff. Maybe that's a good podcast we have coming up is actually, do we separate public and private in California? Because other states do. Texas has its own different.
Stay tuned next week when we talk about should we separate public and private schools on the sports landscape. I think that's a great thing to touch up on in terms of having a show on that because there is that debate, right? You have the question of, is it right to put public school players who really essentially go to the school that they live in the area versus private school kids that were recruited by these coaches, handpicked and developed into superstars, right? So is it fair? I don't know. I mean, I think that on one hand it can be because some public schools are good, like really good. But on one hand, I think it definitely makes it for an unfair competition because these players that are recruited aren't getting better playing against public school kids that are, not that big and strong,
Yeah, and I know there's been some private school coaches that have even voiced their support for separation. Patrick Walsh with Sarah is one of those guys where he said, heck, it's not fair to us to play a 10-0 team in the first round of CCS, but they're a smaller public school and we're a bigger private school. It's hard. He understands that better than anybody. I think if Patrick Walsh is a guy that understands that, that's a great conversation that we will have. We're not going to get into it much now, but next week that's the perfect topic Dylan
Mhm.
will talk about.
Absolutely. Well, with that being said, everyone, that's our show for today. Next week, you guys know what our topic is, so come back and we're going to talk about that. It's going to be a very fun show. Stay tuned, and everyone have a blessed day and a great weekend. And don't forget, watch that football, man. The games are on. It's going to be an exciting weekend. You're going to see some kids have fun. It's going to be a great time. So everyone, get out there on the field, on the TV, anything you got to do, watch those games. Have a good one.